Hey everybody, this is Oscar once again from the Side Hustle Playbook, and in this video we're going to go over our first big issue that we've had with our RICO RI 1000. So stick around. Well, if you've been watching our channel, and I admit we haven't been posting a lot of content, just been really busy with my main job, so by the time I get home, all I really have time to do is print some jobs and, kind of call it a day. So I did post a short, though, that did get some quite a bit of views, and it was for that dreaded RICO boot screen issue. So for those of you who haven't seen it or haven't experienced it, basically what happens is you shut down your RICO, whether you're doing maintenance or doing some type of work on it. But once you turn it back on, it just kind of sits at the boot screen. And I'll show some videos here and kind of include them as I'm talking here. But yeah, we basically ran into this issue, and it is one that is a known issue. So rewind a little bit. Let me give you a little bit of a backstory. But RICO has been sending out, notices, firmware updates, and that's the software that runs on the RICO RI 1000, right? So they're sending out these notices about, updating your printer to, kind of make sure it has the latest and greatest software and kind of avoid some of these issues. But this was a known issue, that people were experiencing. The problem I ran into was that when we tried to update the software following their instructions, so I have mine networked, and basically what I do is, you run their software and you get, you unpack it, and there's instructions that they send to you. Pretty straightforward, it looks like. But every time I tried to update it, I would run into an issue where it couldn't communicate with the printer. So again, my challenge is I work during the day, so I'm not around my printer during the day, and that's when support normally is available, Monday through Friday, like normal business hours on the West Coast. So reached out to them via email. Hey, this is what's happening. Can't update it, and they would go ahead and give me some tips. But they always wanted to do like a remote session, and for me, that's always difficult to try and do. Just because of the timing involved. So, they gave me different tips, different ways to connect to the printer, to try different things. Since I wasn't able to kind of get on jump on a session with them, but it just never panned out. Kept getting the communication error. Tried directly connecting to the printer, via network cable, where I'm just kind of going one-to-one, and that didn't work. So, just kind of knew that I had an issue here and was going to have to, resolve it at some point. Now, lesson learned. For anyone if you guys are having that issue, I would highly recommend that you jump on it. Call them, do what you need to do to get it resolved, because it can cause a lot more issues for you, and it's trying to resolve this boot issue that we ended up running into. So again, if you're getting if you haven't updated your firmware and you're having any issues doing it, or you need help, reach out to them right away to try to get it resolved as soon as possible, because you'll avoid the issues that we ran into. All right, so let's fast forward to part 2. So basically, we are doing a cleaning, like I normally do. Shut down things, do the manual clean, do everything I'm supposed to do there. On powering it back up, that's where I get that dreaded RICO boot error. So it's basically what happens is, and I'll show a video here, you basically turn it on, and the RICO screen comes up like normal. You hear some movements of the machine, and everything's sounding normal. And then all of a sudden, you just notice that you're just staying there, and the machine's doing nothing. So, power it back down, power it back on, just to see if maybe that'll get us going again. And no, it's same thing. Let it sit there for a while just to see if that'll kick into gear. But one jump on the forums. It's after hours. And realize that this is the dreaded issue that other people have had and experienced, and it's not good. So Reach out to RICO support via email that night. Next day, though, don't get any response, which is, a little bit odd. Normally, in my experience, I've always gotten responses pretty quick. So we send out another email that afternoon, and they quickly respond. And sure enough, same type of thing. We gotta get this resolved right away. So where I ran into an issue is, they want to jump on my system and try to connect and see if they can get it up and running. And that's where it's just very difficult for me because I do have to work during normal business hours. So that provided a challenge for me. Now, I will say, and for us, I'm not sure if we're just lucky, but I know a lot of folks maybe complain about their support. When we go to RICO directly, they've helped us out. So, and this was to me another example where, so they couldn't jump on. I told them, I'm like, look, for me, I have to work. Is there anything else I can do? If you give me the software, can I reprogram it? My SD card. So basically what they're saying is they need to reprogram the SD card. That's in the SD card. It's like imagine like a little hard drive or something that you put in your camera, but that's what the system uses to kind of run its program. So they wanted to reprogram it, and so I was trying to figure out, okay, if I can take this time off in the morning, maybe I can do it then. But I let them know that yes, for me it's a little bit difficult. Is there any options for me to do it on my own? Now, the key here is that while it's sitting in this state, nothing is circulating. So for the color, it's not the biggest deal, right? You can leave the colors in there for a bit because they don't have to be shaken up or anything. But for the white, you want that stuff moving or else it's going to clog up on you. That same day, I tell them I can't, that it's hard for me to kind of jump on a call. So what they do is just say, hey, you know what? We're just going to next day air you a new SD card and you can replace it yourself, but that'll have everything reprogrammed and that should get you back up and running. And then from there, you just have to kind of like, almost like getting the machine new where you have to enter your IP address and all that type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, how much is that going to cost? They're like, don't worry, we'll take care of the cost. So which they did. They shipped it. So the next day I get the SD card. Now, I don't have video of myself changing the SD card. I'll show you where you go to change it. And I will give you and the reason I didn't, because it is easy, yet it's not. In the sense that when you can pull the SD card, you gotta be very careful. There's a little metal latch and you don't want to break that. That's what holds the SD card in place. So to pull it out, you just, the latch comes right off. You kind of slide it and pull up. But the SD card came out very easy. To put it back in took me a little bit, and I was getting a little frustrated because you have to put it in just right so that when you close the clip, then you can slide it closed and lock it in place. The way that when you pull out the screen where it's located, unless you take all your cables off, it's a little, you don't have a lot of room to play with. So you do have enough room, but for me, like, it was just an awkward position. So I wanted to take my time, and it did take me a little bit to get that in there. But put the new SD card in, boot it up, and we're back in business. Now, it had a couple of errors when I first started, the machine. I think there was like a CTL, basically a connector error. Opened it back up and kind of reseated everything, made sure all my cables were in good. I think when I opened up the screen cover, some of the cable might have gotten loose a little bit. So I just kind of reseated everything just to make sure, that wasn't it. And closed it back up, and we're back in business. Still getting an error on my, like a potential clog coming up. And I've had that for a little bit though, so I don't think it's related to that. And then I do get an error from time to time that my K and C, the black and the cyan cartridge, are low. which they were at one point, but have since been, replaced, and I'm still getting that error. So, I'll reach out to support on that just to see, if that's anything to be concerned about. But we've been printing, and things are back up and running. But again, for me, the support was great where they next day aired it because they were so concerned that the print head would clog with the white just sitting there. But again, for us, lesson learned. Again, we have to, once those firmware updates, we got to be a little bit more diligent. So I should have made a bigger effort to get it done, right? So maybe I should have told them my situation at that point and just had them ship me the SD card much earlier than, in this type of emergency. So that's where we're at. That's why I posted that short. Luckily, we're back up and running. So things are working great. Again, like I always tell people, like, do I recommend the machine? For us, it's been, a little up and down here and there. But I will say that, when on the comments, a lot of people have asked me my opinion on it. What I have found is that when we are printing regularly, and what I mean by that is like every day we have some shirts to print out, the printer just behaves better. When I have gaps, when I have, where there's not a lot of shirts to print, or, don't have a lot of orders, and the printer's just kind of sitting there doing its normal, just daily stuff, that's usually when I run into issues. So, what I would recommend, like if you're looking at getting a machine, I think any machine at this point, make sure you have the business for it, like we've talked about in the past. And if you don't, though, make sure you're throwing some prints out there, maybe print some shirts for friends, but that you're kind of printing on a regular basis. That way the machine is moving and doing stuff. So that's kind of our story. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to, send me a note. You can send us emails. You can also sign up to our newsletter where we send out some graphics and stuff like that. So you should be seeing some more emails going out in the next week or so with some new graphics. And so I always appreciate all the questions. I always appreciate the support on here. And we'll see you on the next one.